Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at something which we've not seen before from Thermaltake. This is their entry into the world of monitors. There's two actually out at the moment, one of which is a 27-inch flat screen, the other is a 32-inch curved screen, which we've got right here. So this is the TGM V32CQ, actually using some sensible naming structure there. So TGM, I'm guessing, is Thermaltake Gaming Monitor. The 32 is the screen size, and the other bits, well, you can pretty much ignore those. I guess the C might be for curved, who knows. Anyway, so this is a curved gaming monitor. It has a 1000R curve, so this is going to give you some pretty immersive gaming, or if you're watching movies, that kind of stuff, it's going to be great. I've actually been watching this today from various different aspect ratios or different positions, just to get an idea of what this can actually be used for. So I've used it up close, doing some editing. I've also used it from somewhat of a distance, doing some gaming, like first-person shooters, Counter-Strike, that sort of thing, and actually some couch gaming as well. So if you are potentially considering putting this somewhere in place of a television, because you don't watch TV anymore, but you want something with high refresh rates to play your games, your consoles, things like that, then this is going to be absolutely great. It's got a very, very nice colour to it. It has some really nice specs as well. So you're looking at 170Hz as the refresh rate. Also, the screen itself is a 1440p, so resolution-wise, you're looking at 2560 by 1440. The brightness is something which is actually somewhat bothersome for me as someone trying to review something, because it's really bright. It's only got 400 nits, which in terms of kind of what is available on the market right now, doesn't sound a great deal, but it actually is really, really bright, and trying to get the camera to do it justice is really difficult. So I've included all different types of footage in today's video, so you can see it with various different ISO levels on the camera to try and make it look pretty much like how I see it. So I will be doing some slight editing in the video just to try and make that look as good as it possibly can. But realistically, it doesn't really make a great deal of difference. It just really is immersive, especially with that 170Hz refresh rate. If you're playing 1440p, realistically, most decent gaming rigs nowadays are going to be over 100Hz when you're playing. So having something built in which has FreeSync and also G-Sync compatibility, and also FreeSync Premium with variable refresh rate. So even if you're doing something and you're like really struggling with your graphics card and it's down in the kind of 40s, then it's still going to look great and you're not going to get those jagged edges. I actually ran some stuff on here a little bit earlier, 3D Mark, and running that, it did actually make the graphics card kind of crumble a little bit, and it went down to the low 40s in terms of refresh rate, and it still looked buttery smooth on screen. I was watching it from behind the camera and I couldn't quite work out why it looked so nice. But this panel does appear to do a fantastic job, especially when your graphics card is under pressure. Also, I should mention that the color accuracy is actually pretty decent as well. So we've got a DCI-P3 rating of 90%, and also the monitor gets factory calibrated for you. So you don't have to worry about getting it home and then doing anything with it. Essentially, all you need to do is plug it in, set it to sRGB mode, and it's going to be pretty much as good as it can be. So that is pretty decent. That is what they recommend doing. And actually, I should quickly go through what you get in the unboxing experience. The box itself is bloody huge, so I struggled to actually get it on the table, as you can possibly see already. So we've got some specifications there, and you can see what the packaging actually looks like. It's actually quite nice retail packaging. If you're giving this to someone as a Christmas present, I think they're going to be pretty impressed with it. When it comes to things which are actually included in the box, so you get a instruction guide or kind of owner's manual telling you what everything does. You also get a warranty policy guide. Now the warranty on this, from what I can tell, is a 2-year warranty, which kind of isn't the best on the market, but it's better than some. So we're kind of somewhere in that middle ground. 2 years I think is okay for a monitor warranty. I would have liked to have seen 3 if I'm completely honest. You also get a kettle lead style power lead, or IEC, I always get told off for that. And also you get a DisplayPort cable, because this monitor does support DisplayPort and HDMI, and we'll take a look at the ports shortly. There's also some extension screws as well, so if you're planning on VESA mounting, because the actual mounting, as you're probably seeing for some B-roll, is slightly recessed due to how the stand works, then you will need those extension screws for VESA mountings, that sort of thing. Also included in the box is the Thermaltake Monitor Color Calibration Factory Report. I wish there was an acronym for that, but there probably isn't. So you can see how well the monitor's done from the factory. They've tested it. It's got your serial number on there, so if you want to make sure, you can check the serial number on here with the serial number on your monitor, all that kind of good stuff. Just nice to see that it's not just another generic monitor being thrown out of a factory. It's actually been used, tested and calibrated, which I think is actually a nice thing to see on a more premium product. So looking closely at what you actually get in terms of mounting hardware, so you get the stand itself, which comes in two parts. So there is the feet itself, which is metal internally but plastic coated, and also you have the rear stand as well, which is actually adjustable. So there is a gas piston in there allowing you to change the height from the 0 level at the bottom to 110 millimeters taller, so a little bit of flexibility there. The stand itself also has various levels of adjustment, which I'll try and show you, but one of them I don't understand, if I'm completely honest. I don't get it, but no doubt one of you in the comments will tell me why. So this is with the monitor actually at its lowest point, so you can raise this up 110 millimeters, so giving you a nice bit of height there. You can also give it some tilt, which I don't get. I don't know why you'd want to, but anyway. So you can go to there, or you can go to there. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I don't quite get it. There's also tilt as well, sideways, so you've got a little bit of rotation there, about 20 degrees of rotation both ways. And some of you'll notice, even though we've got the really strong bright light, the actual screen itself has got a nice matte coating to it, so you don't get too much glare off it. There is a little bit there, but nowhere near as bad as it normally would be, because that light is horrendous. It really is. You can probably see it shining off my head. That's what it should be doing on that screen, but it's doing a pretty good job. There's also some adjustment there as well. So you've got some up and down, not a great deal of down, about 5 degrees down, about 20 up I think it is. I'll try and show you that on the screen. But yeah, so you've got some adjustment there should you need it. Also the stand has got some cable management built in, so if you want to run your cables through, there is actually a hole at the bottom there, so you can run your cables through. There's a removable channel at the back which you can just pop out, so to cover things up. And the same goes for the back as well. So when you're plugging in your connections, so you've got two HDMI ports, HDMI 2.0, you've got one DisplayPort 1.4, and there's also an earphone jack. So if you want to plug in some headphones or something for some late night gaming, you can do also. On the other side, it's just a simple power cable. If you want to cover it up, there is actually a panel after, so you can tidy up the wires if it's being viewed from the back. Now you're probably thinking, well, Mike, why would you want to view it from the back? Well, someone clearly at Thermaltake thinks that is a thing, and they've incorporated some RGB into the back of the monitor, which does seem to be one of those trends which I don't really understand. It's kind of cool. I like RGB, as you've probably guessed already, and it's nice to have it integrated. Fortunately, in the menu, you can go through and change the RGB. There's 5 or 6 different options in terms of the rainbow puke, either a static red, I think there's a static green as well, or blue, and some kind of chase patterns, or if you want, you can turn it off entirely, which some people probably will do. Hopefully you're seeing that from the menu. So yeah, you can disable that should you wish to. I think it's a kind of nice thing. If it adds too much to the cost, then I think they shouldn't bother, but we're gamers, so RGB all the way. The monitor itself is actually removable from the mounting bracket relatively easily. There's a plastic clip on the back, you just push that up and you can release it from there. It just hooks on, so even if you're on your own, you can do it, connect out very easily. It does say on the box, I think it's something about a 2-man lift, but it's not particularly heavy, somewhere around about 10 kilos in total. Digging into the specifications a little further, so in terms of refresh rate, so you're looking at a 4 millisecond grey to grey response. If you throw in the MPRT, which is that kind of strobing effect, which somehow magically lowers that figure and gives you a slightly different reading of 1 millisecond, technically it isn't, because of the technology. What it's doing is kind of just blurring it a little bit, but certainly that can bring it down. Talking of blurring, this is something I've not noticed on this panel at all. Now, it isn't an IPS screen, but it does seem to do a very good job. Color accuracy is excellent. Gaming wise, everything feels nice, bright and vibrant. We're looking at a 3000:1 contrast ratio, and I think it just looks really, really nice. The colors do seem to pop quite nicely, and you have got the option of turning on HDR if you wish to. There's all kinds of different modes built into the menu system. I must say, actually, the menu system sucks. Straight out, it's horrendous. It's nice in some respects because you have these illuminated bits at the bottom here, so you know where the power button is, and those all light up. So if you press one of the menu buttons, if I can find them underneath here, it comes up and you've got the options, like the quick options, and you can press it again to bring up the settings. So it's all Thermaltake branded, etc. These are quite common on a lot of screens these days. I would have much rather seen a control jog wheel on the back, or one of those kind of things like Samsung brought out years ago. A lot of monitors tend to use those now. Much prefer that. Kind of the up, down, left, right thing. Just gets really confusing. Fortunately, once you've dialed in your settings, you don't have to worry about it, and you kind of just forget it's even there. Just the power button is probably about the only thing you're ever going to need. If you're someone who likes switching through modes all the time, so maybe you're going from like sRGB or a DCI mode for video editing, and then you're going into gaming, you want to change modes, then you can set quick access buttons. So some of those buttons you can program. There's 2 buttons, so for quick access to toggle through various features. So that may reduce that fatigue somewhat, but for me personally, the menu system I think is pretty dire. So that's most of the negatives out of the way, which there are very few to be fair. Let's take a look at some gaming and you can make up your own minds what you think of it. Now, like I said, it's really hard to actually film a monitor. I'm terrible at filming things at the best of times, and filming games on a computer screen is no exception. Now, do remember, you're watching this on YouTube at 30 frames per second. I've recorded it at 30 frames per second, so it's not going to look particularly fast anyway. But it is what it is, so here's some examples of gameplay. We'll take a look at Counter-Strike. Now, I was playing this and I couldn't work out why I wouldn't move forward. Turns out I'd actually changed one of the mappings, so the scroll wheel forward was actually move forward. So that's why that didn't work out particularly well, and I was getting absolutely annihilated. But fortunately, it still looked great, so even though I was not having a good time in terms of my stats, what I could see on the screen actually looked really nice, so that was pretty good. No smearing, and the frame rate I think on this was something around like 300 frames per second or something ridiculous, and it just looked very, very buttery smooth in my opinion. Looking at something else a little bit different, so Wreckfest, I always like a good game of Wreckfest. Again, this has got pretty high frames per second, but it played really nicely, buttery smooth. Again, my gameplay wasn't particularly good. I did experience with this, trying it at different positions, so up close, to the side, seeing what the viewable distances are like. And actually, even at a really obtuse angle, you can still see the screen very, very easily, and it's still very, very bright. And also, if it comes to couch gaming, if you want to sit back a little bit further, maybe, I don't know, 6-10 foot away from the screen, still actually really good. So if you're a console gamer and you like to sit back on your couch and play your games, then this at 32 inches is going to be absolutely fine. As I mentioned a little bit earlier as well, I've run 3D Mark on here because this does actually tax the system in a way that it kind of reduces the frame rate. So this is where your variable refresh rate is going to come in, and FreeSync is going to kind of smooth out those jaggers. And actually looking through this as it runs through the various changes in frame rate, and it still looks absolutely great, very, very smooth. I did struggle to get the actual picture right. I did discuss this with Kath and saying, which screen looks better? Can you see, or do they both look the same? And I think we've kind of dialed it in with the darker ISO, or higher, lower ISO, whatever it is. Anyway, I think it still looks really good. Let me know what you think in the comments section. So there you go, you've had a look at the screen, you can see some of the gameplay. Realistically with screens, I think it's always the case of you should try it yourself. Now, I don't have the facilities here to make sure that all of the specs that are quoted are what they say they are, and realistically, most people don't. They kind of just go on trust. Essentially, I think a lot of people will just buy it from Amazon, see if they like it. If they don't like it, they'll shove it back in the box and move on to the next brand. Price-wise for this in America, you're looking at somewhere around about $300 from what I can tell at the moment. This isn't really widely available at the moment. There's some links in the video description, and we'll try and update those as quick as we can so you can find out where it's best to buy from. Looking at UK prices at the moment, we have seen some placeholder pricing for the UK version of this, and it looks to be somewhere around about £350, which I think actually puts it in a slightly awkward position because there's an awful lot of competition, especially with this kind of level of quality of panel at that sort of price point. Now, you can get some really cheap panels, 32-inch, 1440p, I know because I've got one upstairs from Electric, and this one blows it out the water in terms of the actual colour reproduction and just things like smearing. So no real smearing with this, at least not that I've noticed, so I'm very pleased with it as it is. The only thing is, again, is the price really is one of those things where you maybe you're going to shop around for brands to see what works out best for you. Also, the menu system, I'm not a big fan of that, I'll be completely honest with you. I think it's one of those things that should just go. The joystick control is much better, or even just some sort of control application within Windows would be far superior. But I guess it is what it is. Ultimately, I think it comes down to individual, what you like and what you can actually afford to purchase. But as far as I'm concerned, for a entry point from Thermaltake into their monitors, I think this is actually really good, and I think a lot of people are going to go out and get this and be very, very happy with it. Again, like I said, I've got a 32-inch curved monitor upstairs from Electric, which was a little bit cheaper, and it isn't a patch on this thing. This is considerably better. The blurring and all that is, yeah, it's just a much better panel overall. That's all I should say, and I think I'll wrap things up there. So, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the flat panel review. Thanks for watching.